The first thing I want to draw is a multipolar neuron. When we talk about the nerve system, this is kind of like one of the basic fundamental units of the nerve system. And I kind of draw it in a modernized form, but I usually draw the cell body, something like this. And then I draw a long axon extending away from the cell body. And so here would be the nucleus. And the dendrites are what bring the information into the dendrite. That is what allows information to be input into the neuron, and sensory information input. And then once the sensory input comes into these dendrites, it then goes through the cell body or maybe on the outside of it, and then it dances along the outer layer of the axon, which is the full length of this we see here. This is an axon. Now, around this axon, there is what's called a myelin sheath. And this fatty sheath that we see in a multipolar neuron increases the diameter of the nerve and thus increases the speed of the impulse down the nerve. The skinnier the nerve is, the slower it moves. That's like a nociceptor or a pain fiber nerve moves really slow. That's why you can put your hand under something that's a hot water and you can jerk it out because you know it's hot, but it takes a second, before you get the misery from it. Why? It's because you got the heat sensation, which was fast. That's 200 miles an hour. But it took a second for the pain information to catch up with it and for you to get the full effect of what just happened by putting your hand under a hot water or something like that. In a multipolar neuron, these individual cells that wrap around the axon are called Schwann cells. And one of the important clinical notes that I want to make to this is that a no-fat diet is not a good idea. Maybe low-fat, maybe, but not no-fat. And the reason is that the nerves are insulated with fat. And so if you go with low fat and you don't get enough, you can have some damage. Another dangerous element is vegetarianism. I would say if you're going to be a vegetarian, it's important to get with a tribe of people that have been doing this a long time. And the reason I say that is if you don't get enough B12 in your diet, you can also get damage to these neurons as well. And since vegetarians don't eat a lot of meat, they don't get a lot of B12. And so it's important to find alternative sources to get that nutrient. And so I would say do vegetarianism with a co-op of other people that have done it successfully. I would say do not try this alone at home. Now, an interesting fact that happens is that when an action potential occurs in a neuron, a threshold stimulus has been achieved, and sodium goes in and depolarizes this nerve, but potassium has to quickly move back out to balance the electrochemical gradient here, and to reset, basically to reset this fiber so it can fire again. So you have this repeated scene of sodium in, potassium out, and so you get this net cyclic effect so that a nerve impulse travels toward the synaptic knob down at the end. And that is a very basic look at a multipolar neuron. Typically, this kind of neuron would be found going from your spinal cord out to an effector. telling the muscle to contract. If this was a motor nerve, remember that the word motor means movement. And so that kind of jives pretty nicely. If this is a motor nerve, it's going to cause your muscles to move to get result in movement. Very good.